Hi everyone, my name's Rishi, I'm the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Thank you for joining our YouTube live event. Coming to you today direct, I'm in Edinburgh, because we're going to talk about the importance of the tourism industry to the Scottish economy and the UK economy, and the challenging year that it's had. I'm going to introduce some of our panelists in a second, but we're joined by some of the most renowned and well-loved tourist institutions in Scotland to help us talk through these things. But it's just when I think about how important this industry is, bear in mind that there have been, if you look at the year before the pandemic, over 100 million visitors to Scottish tourism bodies and institutions, almost 20 million overnight visitors as well. So enormously important for the economy, which is why the government has provided tens of billions of pounds worth of support to help get through this last period, which has been really difficult. But also these institutions and organisations have done an enormous job on their part to adapt and evolve to the circumstances, and are now, delighted to be able to welcome us all back. So without further ado, let me just let you know who we are joined by. We're joined by the Royal Botanical Gardens, the Glasgow Science Centre, of course, Lagavulin Distillery, one of Scotland's most loved distilleries, and the Edinburgh Fringe, one of the most popular festivals which you're all very familiar with. So thank you all to my fantastic panelists for joining us. Why don't we kick off with a question, maybe we'll whiz round quickly. It has been a difficult year. We've tried to put various things in place to help all of you get through it. I'd love to hear, what you felt worked well for your organisation. What schemes did you take advantage of? How did you adapt to the circumstances? And Simon, why don't we kick off with you?
Yeah, thank you, Chancellor. It has obviously been a difficult year. We get 1 million visitors in a normal year, and our income, went to nothing. We're bouncing back now. We would not be in the position we are without the government support. That's both the Westminster government, of course, the Scottish government. So that has managed us to keep the show on the road. Kickstart is one of the more recent things, and we're looking forward to getting some young people coming in on that, not just in the hospitality, but working in various departments of the garden. That's a huge opportunity. It provides the majority of the funding for that, and will help us to upskill people in the future. And I have a particular concern about the hospitality trade in particular, and how that's undervalued, and we're having difficulty recruiting for lots of reasons, as I think a lot of people are. And I think the Kickstart will really help that, and really have really high quality people that we can train up and develop and get on their career paths. So very welcome.
Brilliant. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And we should talk a little bit more about young people in a second, because I think that will be a theme. Stephen, over to you. On your end, what has been most helpful over the past 12, 18 months in terms of protecting jobs in your organisation?
Yeah, well, like Simon, we're dependent visitors for the majority of our income, which went from 350,000 a year to 18,000 in the first few weeks of March last year. There are three elements that got us through. One was the job retention scheme. We had a grant from the Scottish Government, and also we were able to claim on our business interruption insurance. Without that, we would have made a loss of 3.3 million, and quite frankly, we wouldn't be here without any one of those elements. The other big benefit for us now that we're open again is the VAT reduction on admissions and food and beverage, which means that more money is actually coming back to us. So we've managed to get through the last 18 months with a full complement of staff. We're proud of that. The next 6 months are going to be challenging, but we're optimistic beyond that as long as we don't start going back in reverse, then things will continue to get better.
Brilliant. No, well, I'm really glad to hear that. And the VAT cut for the hospitality and tourism industry, I hear a lot, has made an enormous difference to people's cash flow in particular. And great numbers out today on furlough scheme, actually, people rapidly coming off furlough and coming back into work, which is really wonderful to see. Shona, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, quite simply, without the job retention scheme and the cultural recovery funds and the support from both UK and Scottish Government, we wouldn't be here. We've been able to retain core skills from our amazing staff. We had to lose some along the way, But I think we're in a good position for recovery. But I guess the big question going forward is that longer term recovery piece. And we're an industry that is primarily actually for UK-wide tourism. So most of our visitors are coming from within the UK, and the creative pipeline that we offer for Scottish artists and freelancers. So the big question is how many of those freelancers have survived. And I've got a question about insurance cover going forward as well. But thanks for the support. It has been essential.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for saying that. And look, on insurance, and we were talking about this before, I know lots of people in the industry have said, what can the government do to try and help on the insurance side? What I can tell you is that we are in dialogue with the industry to try and understand what some possible solutions might be. We haven't alighted on something just yet that we think would work, because we have to be conscious of taxpayers as well as trying to get the industry going. But we are looking through all the suggestions that are coming towards us and working through them. And we have been able to find some solutions, for example, in film and TV, to get film and TV production, and you talked about your creative pipeline, to get that industry up and going, to get film sets and TV sets working again. We managed to create a reinsurance scheme that has worked really well and protected tens of thousands of jobs. So it's not that we're averse to doing these things if we can find a workable solution. So rest assured, we're on it. Now, so let me turn to Pierrick for something slightly different. Now, this is one of the most storied distilleries in Scotland. Love the t-shirt, love the backdrop. People are going to be coming back to you, and I'm sure you're ready to welcome them back. What is it that draws people to your distillery? It's an important part of the heritage of Scotland, of the UK, a very important part of that economic ecosystem that we talked about. Now, what are your favourite facts and anecdotes about the history of your distillery that you think people, when they come, are really delighted and fascinated to learn about?
Well, there's a lot, obviously. So we've got over 200 years of history. So to pick one element would be quite hard. But yeah, back in 2016, we celebrated the 200 years. And one thing that we did was to go back to the origins of what Lagavulin was doing. So we launched an 8-year-old bottle for the occasion, and that attracted a lot of people. There was a lot of focus on this that was globally exported as well. To start with, it was a limited edition, but it was so successful that it's now part of the core range as well. So a lot of people are coming to the site to see this, to understand the history, to see the place where the whiskey is made. We've been very fortunate. So obviously it's been a challenging year for us as well, but we were really fortunate that we didn't need to use the furlough scheme or any business rates relief, because we are a large company. So we managed to weather the storm. And actually, we provided support to the hospitality sector by investing £30 million to support the UK bars and pubs. So for us, we were in a different position. But yeah, people at the moment are very excited and can't wait to come back and see us. So we've been working with the Scottish government hand in hand to just make sure that step by step we reopen in a safe way, in a controlled manner. We receive phone calls, emails every day. I think the COVID has increased the attraction to the distilleries. People are very desperate to come back and see us. So it's a very exciting future coming ahead of us, actually.
Yeah, well, no, that's really heartening to hear. And you mentioned something there which is interesting about exports, and that you're a great example of an organisation, a business, which has these really deep cultural and historical roots for Scotland and for the UK, and attracts people because of that. But also economically is a really significant export industry, and it connects with what we're trying to do on global trade, where we now have the ability to sign trade deals. And just recently we signed the outlines of a preliminary deal with Australia, which would reduce tariffs, for example, on Scotch whisky. And there are all these markets out there, because not only do we need to get people to visit you here in Scotland, we want to get your product out all around the world, and that ultimately is good for jobs here at home. If I could pick up, Simon, on something that you touched on. You talked about Kickstart and the importance of young people. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. It's always been top of my mind throughout this crisis, the impact that this has had on young people, because they disproportionately work in sectors, like you said, in hospitality, where we've seen the biggest job losses. Over half of the people who have lost their jobs since the beginning of this crisis have been under the age of 24, which is why we created the Kickstart scheme, to provide a huge amount of government support to fully fund high quality jobs for young people who are at the risk of long-term unemployment. Some numbers out today: over 50,000 people have started jobs, which is great. And I think 4,500 of them here in Scotland, which is fantastic to see as well. I'd love to hear from you about your particular, passion for providing young people with this opportunity, critical time in their lives. This is for many of them their first job. I mean, I'd love some advice, thoughts, reflections from you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are opportunities here. We've been around for 350 years. We can beat Lagavulin on that. Our global brand, and we're a very global organization here in terms of staff and visitors normally, although the overseas tourism, of course, is a big issue for us. We've been advertising and recruiting a lot in the past few months, investing in the future. And generally, the responses have been good. The only area that we're struggling sometimes is the hospitality area. And I think there's been a bit of a reset. I think people have looking at that work-life balance and say, God, do I need to work every evening or 5 evenings a week, whatever. So I think that the kickstart and getting young people in to, whether it's into hospitality or whether it's into horticulture or to be the botanists of the future, or the administration, this provides a really good opportunity. But also joining an organization like us that we can develop them over the years. People stay with us for a long time generally. So it's not just about bringing somebody in for a couple of years. This is about longer term career development. And I think that's something we ought to be looking at more in the hospitality area, which is traditionally, people come for a few months and then leave. But we really want to get high value, good people in to do that. And Kickstart will help doing that. And we're raising funds to augment that as well, and also raising additional funds for additional apprentices too.
Oh,
so we're very much embracing that area.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm delighted to hear. And if people are watching and you're a small and medium-sized business, I really urge you to look at the various support that's on offer, either from the UK government or the Scottish government. At the moment, we certainly are trying to encourage businesses to take on young people especially, and there's a lot of financial support to enable you as a small or medium-sized business to do that. So please do take a look, because it's an important time, as Simon says, to provide young people with that first opportunity and then help them build a career.
And there seems to be a shortage of bakers. Our caterers can't find a baker at the moment. So there are skills out there ready for people to be trained.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first. I'm visiting a bakery later on today, so I'll check it as well. You certainly don't want my cake decorating skills, I can tell you that. Shona, obviously the festival is necessarily going to look and feel a bit different this year. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what have you done to make that possible? What should we expect? When we see that later this year.
Well, and another area that I've got to thank you for, Chancellor, because we put a lot of investment into digital, and not just as a stopgap for 2020 and 2021, but as a real kind of legacy project coming out of the whole COVID experience, a positive legacy project. Because we like to think of the Edinburgh Fringe as being the biggest open access festival in the world that welcomes you, whether you're a startup artist or whether you're at the top of your career. So the idea that we can now use a digital platform to be truly open access and welcome people, whether you're from Brazil or South Africa or Iran, if you have a show to put on, you'll be able to do that through the digital platform that will be there going forward. But of course, this year, we're just so relieved to be coming back to live, because the appetite out there for people. Our first day of sales just went off the record, because people just want to be back. They want to be back with other people, experiencing live performance. There's an element of kind of digital fatigue. So I think people will come back to that further down the line, but live performance is where it's at the minute. And we provide this incredible sort of marketplace for all of the UK. So it will be great to see artists come from across the country again, from across Edinburgh and Scotland and Wales, Northern Ireland and England, to join us here in Edinburgh and be live. It's exciting. Can't wait.
You're right. Digital fatigue that's a great phrase, and I'm desperate for live performances. So we can't wait to see some of that back. Interestingly, I was to pick up on something that both Simon and you talked about, that global aspect. And Simon, you talked about the importance of global tourism in particular. And I think for all of your organisations, that's important, because you're all globally important, significant cultural organisations. And you would have seen, look, we've got to make some changes to our travel regime, which we're doing. And part of that, obviously, it means Brits can travel a bit more freely. But part of that is making sure that all the people that ordinarily would come to all your organizations that were so valuable to your success, over time we can safely get them back to coming to visit the UK and coming to visit all of you. And that's what some of the announcements today I think will help. And given how significant all that is to you, I think that will make a difference. And Stephen, if I turn to you, as you think about the future and the museum and what you're trying to achieve, what are you most excited about? What are the bits of it that you've spent some time over the last 12 months thinking about now? And as people are coming back, what would be your top things to say, look, come and visit this, see this, we're really excited about these bits of our organization?
Well, like Shona, we have used the last 18 months to really build our digital capacity. So we may have been closed, but we've been very busy continuing to connect with our audiences, and in particular, our school audiences. So what I'm most excited about is that we have a large group of schools around us that come once a year. But because we've now developed these digital programs, we have been able to engage with these schools for a 10-week period over their academic year. And then a visit to the Science Centre is just going to be one more intervention from us, and an opportunity to inspire young people about science. So we're really excited about that now, that digital element. But on March the 18th, when we closed the doors in 2020, we were due to launch a new exhibition. And this exhibition, called Idea 59, was designed to celebrate innovation that's happening locally and across Scotland and the UK. And we look at themes such as stratified medicine, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, data, analytics, all of the exciting things that will help us grow out of this pandemic. So it's been under wraps for 18 months. It's still brand shiny and new, and I've been really enjoying, watching our visitors come back and interact with that. And the other thing I love about the Science Centre now, and I don't know if you can hear, but I can hear noise. I can hear bings and bangs, and that means we've got people back. And today we'll have about 800 visitors in, which is less than half of what we usually have, but it's a start. And like Shona, there's a huge appetite for us all just to get back to normal. What I've noticed this time, second time of reopening, is the anxiety is starting to disappear, and people are much more confident coming out and enjoying the experience much more.
Brilliant. Look, I'm standing in Dynamic Earth, one of your probably colleague institutions in Edinburgh, and I can tell you exactly the same thing is happening here. I was just out with a group of school kids who are here on a summer camp, and all the things that you said is what's happening. Like, you can see their minds are just being exposed to new ideas, imagination is unlocked, and they're just full of excitement to be in here learning, doing things, or they're learning by playing and discovering. And that's what all of you do so well. You bring joy to people's lives, you bring them new things to learn about, and in the process, you're all incredibly important to our economy in it and what you stand for. So it's lots of jobs, which is really critical as we come out of this, but also just connecting us with our roots, in case many of you, have been going for years, but our cultural heritage, our traditions, but also providing that joy in people's lives. So I'm being told we're out of time, unbelievably, because I could talk to you all afternoon. But look, I thank you for everything that you're doing. I wish you all well. You've all got fantastic plans for the summer and beyond, and I look forward to hopefully seeing some of those in action myself. So take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.